Let's talk about why peace feels wrong after years of chaos. Saturday, I got in my truck and came out here to the lake. There wasn't really a plan. I figured I'd come out here, camp Saturday night, enjoy myself, and probably go home on Sunday. Well, here it is Monday, and I'm still here. And here's the funny part. I might go home tomorrow. I might not. I honestly don't know. And sitting here looking across the lake this morning, something hit me. A few years ago, I couldn't have done this. And I don't mean camping. Hell, I've been doing stuff like this my whole life. I'm talking about waking up Monday morning and having absolutely no idea whether I'm going to go home today or tomorrow or whenever the hell I feel like it. There was a time after I left my narcissistic marriage when I couldn't walk into a damn store for more than 5 minutes without feeling like I needed to hurry up and get back home. And back to what? Hell if I knew. There wasn't anybody waiting for me. There wasn't an emergency, but something inside of me kept saying, get what you need to get and get back. Now look at me, 55 years old. I left home Saturday. It's Monday. My tent's still sitting right there. And, chairs are out, shit scattered all over this campsite, and I don't have anywhere I need to be. For the first time in a very long time, my time actually feels like mine. And I think that's one of the strangest parts of rediscovering your life after you're 50 years old. Sometimes you finally get peace, and you don't even know what the hell to do with it. My reason for getting here was a narcissistic marriage. And that's my truth. I spent years in chaos, never really knowing what version of the day I was going to walk into. So eventually I left. But you don't have to have lived with a narcissist to understand what I'm talking about. Maybe you spent 30 years at a job that owned your life. Maybe you raised a family and every decision revolved around what somebody else needed. Maybe you took care of somebody. Maybe you ran a business. Maybe you just spent years of your life just trying to keep your head above water. Maybe you've simply been the person everybody depends on. But whatever your reason, you can spend decades living in a constant state of what's next. What's the next problem? Where do I need to be? Who needs me? What needs fixing? What haven't I done? And eventually, you don't know how to stop. I know I didn't. When I left that marriage, the chaos around me, changed pretty damn quickly. But I didn't. I'd go to the store and feel like I needed to hurry. I'd be somewhere and start thinking about getting back. I'd sit down and immediately start thinking about what I should be doing instead. Nobody needed to stand over me telling me to hurry anymore. I'd learned how to do that all by myself. And I think that's where a lot of us end up later in life. We spend decades saying, when things calm down, when the kids get older, when I get out of this relationship, when I retire, when I finally have some time, and eventually some of those things actually happen and things get quieter. But then what? Because when you've spent all of your life running, standing still feels wrong. That's what surprised me about peace. Sometimes peace itself didn't even feel peaceful. It felt like I was forgetting something, and I'd sit there thinking, what should I be doing? Or who needs something? Or what's going to happen next? And if I couldn't find a problem, my mind would damn near go looking for one. Because give me a problem and I'll know what to do. I'll figure it out. I've done that my whole life. But give me an afternoon where nobody else needs anything from me. Well, that was harder because now I had to answer a question that I hadn't asked myself ever. What do I want to do? Not what do I need to do? Not what am I supposed to do? But what do I actually want to do? Those are completely different questions. And that question became a huge part of rediscovering my life. It didn't start with some giant life-changing decision. It started with little shit, going somewhere by myself like this, going out for breakfast, sitting beside the river, taking a drive just because I felt like taking a drive, picking up things I hadn't done in years, trying something new, spending an afternoon doing absolutely nothing productive. And slowly I started figuring out who I was when nobody else was deciding who I needed to be. That's a strange thing to say at 55 years old. You'd think by this age I'd have that shit figured out. I didn't. I knew how to work. I knew how to provide. I knew how to solve problems. I knew how to survive. But enjoying my own life without feeling like I needed permission, I had to relearn that. And there's something I figured out about being the dependable one. Peace can feel like, well, almost like irresponsibility when you've spent your whole life being responsible. I've been that guy. Something goes wrong, I'll handle it. Something breaks, I'll fix it. Somebody needs something, I'll figure it out for them. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm proud of being dependable. But somewhere along the way, I started treating damn near everything like it was urgent. And most of it wasn't. I can look around my place right now, and if I go home and find 50 things that need doing. The grass needs cutting, something needs fixing. There's always another project. And there will always be another project. I could pack this campsite up right now, drive home, and find something productive to do within 5 minutes. But I've started asking myself a different question. Does it actually need to be done today? Because if it doesn't, why the hell am I rushing back? That doesn't mean abandoning responsibility. I've got kids, I've got a home, I've got responsibilities. If something genuinely needs handling, I'll handle it. But that part of me isn't going anywhere. But what I've finally started understanding is that my entire life doesn't have to be a responsibility. There has to be some living in there somewhere. And I wasted a lot of years thinking living was something that I'd get around to later. Later. That's a dangerous damn word when you're 55. Because by this age, there isn't an unlimited supply of it. So when I find myself sitting somewhere like this, enjoying myself with no legitimate reason that I need to leave, I'm not asking why should I stay. I'm asking why in the hell should I leave? And sitting out here, I realized something else. Maybe I'm not learning how to live this way. Maybe I'm remembering how to live. Because we're born knowing how to do this. Think about when you were a kid. You'd walk outside in the morning, and half the time you didn't have a damn plan. You get on your bicycle, go find your friends, walk through the woods, go fishing, build something completely stupid. And one thing just led to another. You weren't standing there at 10 o'clock in the morning thinking about what you needed to accomplish by 4. You were just in it. And remember how long those days felt? Summer, it seemed like it lasted forever. A week felt like a month. Waiting for Christmas felt like 3 damn years. Then we grow up, you know, and suddenly we're saying, how in the hell is it August already? Where did this year go? How am I 50? How am I 55? And I think part of the answer is incredibly simple. We started living for the next moment instead of living in the one that we're actually in. Think about how we live as adults. While we're drinking coffee, we're thinking about work. While we're working, we're thinking about what we've got to do when we get home. While we're eating dinner, we're already thinking about tomorrow. While we're lying in bed, we're thinking about everything we've got to do when we wake up. We spend Monday waiting for Friday. We spend winter waiting for summer. Some people spend 40 years waiting for retirement. And then we turn around and ask, where the hell did my life go? Well, we were always on our way to the next damn thing. We weren't actually in very many of the moments while they were actually happening. When we were kids, we didn't need every moment to have a predetermined outcome. We weren't trying to get anything out of the afternoon. We were trying to make it productive. We weren't thinking about what came next. We were just there. Maybe that's one reason that, those days just seemed so damn long. We were actually living in them. Somewhere along the way, a lot of us lost that. And maybe rediscovering life after 50 isn't about finding some brand new way to live. Maybe part of it is remembering, something that we actually knew before life, taught us out of it. So somewhere, just go somewhere without knowing exactly what you're going to do when you get there. Do something without needing to know what you're going to get out of it. Let one moment turn into another. Stop demanding that every damn thing have a purpose. And every once in a while, stop asking, what's next? That's exactly what happened to me this weekend. Saturday, I came to this lake. There wasn't a grand plan. I didn't know I'd still be sitting here today on Monday. And, at this point, I'm not going home today either. One moment just led to the next. And for once, I let it. And to be honest, I think that's the biggest difference between the man who walked out of that narcissistic marriage at 51 and the man sitting right here today at 55. Back then, I was trying to escape a life I didn't want. Today, I'm actually building one I do. Those are not the same thing. Getting away from something isn't enough. Eventually, you have to just start discovering what you're moving towards. And for me, part of that has been realizing that freedom isn't some giant dramatic moment. Sometimes freedom looks exactly like this: a tent, a chair, a lake, Monday afternoon, and absolutely nowhere I have to be. Nobody's keeping me here. Nobody's making me leave. I get to choose. That's what peace has become for me. It's choice. And your answer might look nothing like mine. Maybe you'd hate sitting here beside a lake for 3 days. But that's not the point. This is my answer. You've got to rediscover yours. So I don't think rediscovering life after 50 or 40 or 60 or 70, any of it, is, means becoming the person you were at 25. I don't want to be that guy again. It means figuring out who you are now when you finally stop living every moment for whatever comes next. And again, Saturday I came out here expecting to stay one night. It's Monday, I'm still here. Maybe I'll go home tomorrow, maybe I won't. I'll wake up, I'll look across that water right there. I'll drink my coffee, and I'll decide then. Because I've spent enough years worrying about the next moment. At 55, I'm trying like hell to not miss the one I'm actually in. I hope that for you too. Y'all, I'll see you in the next one.